Being a journalist means in-depth analysis that unravels hidden truths, that question the status quo and fact-checks government.
These criminal elements hiding under the cloak of surveillance contractors are the APC elements.
Do you have facts to prove that? Being a journalist means waking up every day with a burning desire for peace, equity, and justice for all citizens.
We're being told that the choice you have is to take the lesser of two evils.
It means patriotism via the prism of objectivity and accountability. It means giving my platform to the masses to discuss issues that matter to them.
Some of them, if they bring budget and the budget they look, some they sleep, they're going to ask how much we are on. I have it.
Thereby shaping government policies and laws. My name is Osasu, and I am the People's Journalist. North to South Africa, East to West Africa, TOS TV Network is your digital-first Pan-African news network, bringing you news from across the continent. Visit our website www.tostvnetwork.com and follow us on social media at TOS TV Network on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
In recent weeks, Nigerians have experienced a surge in violence crimes like kidnappings, armed robbery, banditry, and killings. This has sent shivers down the spines of many with no possible solutions in sight. Since last December, mass abduction of hundreds of schoolgirls and boys at boarding schools in northwest Nigeria have been happening more and more frequently, at least once every 3 weeks. Just last Friday, more than 300 girls taken from their school in Zamfara State were released early Tuesday last week, as announced by the governor of the state. The week before, more than 40 children and adults were abducted from a boarding school in Niger State, and very recently, more than 300 schoolgirls have been kidnapped by unidentified gunmen from a school in northwestern Nigeria. Police say they believe the girls were taken to a forest after being abducted from their boarding school in Jangebe, Zamfara State on Friday morning. All of these happenings continue to breed fear and tension among citizens as well as an issue of concern.
The main problem with insecurity in Nigeria is impunity, that we allow people to get away with killing other people, with committing different types of crime, and do absolutely nothing about it. Our biggest problem is not corruption, it's just impunity. And corruption is just a branch of impunity, and so that we must curb. The rule of law must take precedence in Nigeria. We must stop throwing blankets over terms and crimes and then whitewashing them and granting amnesty.
Recently, former President Olusegun Obasanjo decided to pen another letter to President Buhari, alerting him to the, very, very worrisome implication of what is actually happening now, that the insecurity that we've seen will not just be something that is just undermining the people, but it's actually trying to lead Nigeria to a state of civil war, simply because a particular tribe has been figured as largely responsible to the spate of kidnappings in different countries based on the kind of trade that they carried out. That's talking about the herdsmen, which is actually domiciled within a particular tribe. And this is actually creating a lot of worry. But in the last 10 years, not limited to the Buhari administration, the security situation in Nigeria has been on a downward spiral. And it is not getting really better. But one thing that people must understand is that the kind of security we get is also synonymous with the kind of leadership that we've had in the country over time.
It is a situation that has graduated over time. The security challenges we are facing in Nigeria emanated from 3 quarters. Number 1 quarter is that we made ourselves a victim of unguided population. That is, our population was growing from 65 million to 84 million, now to about 200 million or probably above. And all infrastructures were in deficiency, gross deficiency. Education was in gross deficiency. And to make it worse, education was largely privatized. Schools were sold to private sectors, making education inaccessible. And because of deficiency in infrastructure, unemployment took a dangerous dimension, which made us to sat on, and we're still sitting on a keg of gunpowder.
Insecurity dates back to the period immediately after the Nigerian Civil War in 1970. Recall that we had a protracted 3-year civil war between 1967 and 1970. The small arms and light weapons used in fighting that war were never recovered from wrong hands. So you have a scenario where banditry, armed robbery, kidnapping started manifesting in Nigeria in that period of 70s down to where we are now. And successive administrations have been making frantic and attempts to resolve the lingering challenge. Unfortunately, they have not been successful for the reason that many of them are either bereft of ideas or they just want to wish it away that naturally this insecurity will fizzle out.
And the kind of leadership we have currently is also responsible for also the level of insecurity that we have currently in Nigeria, because leadership is a serious business. The moment somebody is given a responsibility to preside over the affairs of a nation, it is the person's responsibility to be able to address challenges in that country.
So for example, a governor had said that not all bandits are criminals. That's simply whitewashing. We whitewash extrajudicial crimes. We whitewash banditry. We whitewash ethnic and religious crimes as well against people. And so we tell people who are the victims of these crimes that they are not important. So the rule of law must prevail and impunity must end. If we must end these issues across Nigeria, we need to stop giving amnesty.
Nigeria, Africa's most populous country, continues to battle with an endemic insecurity situation that has spiraled exponentially in the past decade. The Global Rights, Mass Atrocities and Casualties Tracking Report 2020, released recently, gives an overview of what the situation is using data. The report indicated that through casualties of violent attacks, clashes, terrorism, kidnappings, and extrajudicial killings, at least 4,556 lives were lost between January and December 2020, which is a glaring spike of almost 43% in the number of casualties in comparison to the 2019 figure of 3,188.
So there's been an increase of about 43% from 2019 to 2020. So the killings in 2020 were more than 4,500 killings, while in 2019 we had 3,111 killings in that year, which means a 43% spike in the number of killings across the country. Most of the killings occurred in the northern part of the country, with 46% in the northern part of the country and 24% in the southern part of the country. Kidnapping and banditry ran throughout the country, but more of banditry in the northern parts of the country, and the nuances of banditry was also different in the north than in the south. The top worst 3 states to live in are Borno, Kaduna, and Katsina states, and I think that's very, very instructive considering the relation of the president to these 3 states. Extrajudicial killings were more common in the southern parts of the country, with most of the killings occurring there. We had more than 600 extrajudicial killings in that single year alone, including the killings during NSARS. Banditry, the various forms of killings, banditry, extrajudicial killings, like as I've said, pillage across the country, communal attacks, cult gang attacks. Now, cult gang attacks were more common in the southern part of the country than in the north.
The report released by Global Rights, a partner of Center for Liberty on Mass Atrocities in Nigeria, is actually a report that should be scrutinized and adopted by not just only the state actors at the national, subnational, including some non-state actors like companies, organizations that are supporting the Nigerian government, including the international community. I say scrutinize simply because it is also, it will be described as irresponsible on the part of government to just get a report and swallow it hook, line, and sinker. But they are able to do a due diligence, look at the report, evaluate it, assess it, and they will find out that the report was done with good intention, not with any intention to undermine, the country or to undermine the government in power. So, like I said, I commend this report to our state governors, 36 of them, and the Federal Capital Territory, the 774 local governments and some LCDs, and also some partner for them to, abreast themselves of what is contained in the report by Global Rights about mass atrocities in Nigeria. It is not just a reporting of the atrocities that have been committed. Global Rights also took a further bold step in also trying to suggest some possible way out. And I believe that if the government will not just see this, as a sort of a report that has been done to criticize the government, if the government will not see it as a report coming from critics of the government, if the government will not see it as a report that is bad or badly intended, then the government should actually take this report and digest it and act promptly, proactively, simply because, for instance, there was a state which had a very low mass atrocity in 2020, which is Gombe State. But today, in 2 months, Gombe has recorded, scores of death, scores of people killed in that state, and this is not good enough. It means that we are not doing enough. So the report should be digested and acted upon, and the government now taking proactive measures to curb future mass atrocities in different parts of the country.
When such a report comes, a responsible government will take it up and use it as a mirror. If there are deficiencies in the report, that do not totally nullify the fact that you can make an extract of what you can use for the benefit of your citizens.
If we actually have taken our research institutes and research outputs, if we have taken them very seriously, there have been several researches done by different organizations, conflict, crisis management institutes, even academia, ivory towers like all our universities. Many of them have, done researches, even civil society organizations, to champion the way out of this quagmire. Unfortunately, many of those reports, including reports that was set up, reports of commission of inquiry and study group that was set up by the president and by different state governments are gathering dust on the shelves in the state house all over the country. And that's why I said they are either bereft of ideas or they just wish that this problem will disappear on its own.
Nigeria continues to struggle with inordinate and escalating insecurity rooted in mass atrocities unabated, and this is seen in the violence-related deaths recorded in all states across the country. The figures in 2020, according to the Global Rights Tracking on Mass Atrocities and Casualties, shows a significant increase higher than that of 2019, which shows that government's effort at preventing violence or combating insecurity continue to be ineffective despite the increased budget for security.
Throwing money at insecurity will not solve it, because obviously the path that our leaders have chosen is to just pump more money into the fight against insecurity. Just 2017 December, $1 billion unbudgeted expenses was incurred or was approved by the Council of Economic the Economic Council, comprising of 36 states and then the president and a couple of other people. $1 billion. There are two approaches to this whole issue. There is the soft approach and the hard approach. While the president, governors, and local government chairpersons are more inclined to the hard approach, let's recruit more soldiers, let's procure more hardware, military hardware, armored personnel carriers, RPG, AK-47, let's have CCTVs, let's have scanners, jammers, and trackers. Yes, good as they are, including the change of service chiefs and leadership of our military as well as police. This may be a step in the right direction, but it's not a lasting solution in my own estimation.
I have never seen any country in the world that is so powerful, whether through technology or armament, to be able to contain the surprise attack of terrorists. So, when things of this nature happen to a nation, what the citizens and responsible people should do is to galvanize themselves into a block of national resistance and unity. It doesn't matter whether you like the government that is in place or you hate their face and the rest of it. First of all, the national sovereignty, we must love the country to the extent that we will be able to say, no, this is not the directions we want to go as a nation. To preserve the national sovereignty, we must unite against every act of terrorism, banditry, and criminality. Having said that, this takes it further to the fact that people, when these things happen, the first things we will be seeing on social media is taking out the president as an individual, then taking out the federal government. And nobody is talking about state government. Nobody is talking about local government. Nobody is talking about traditional ruler. Nobody is talking about these segments. But the truth of the fact of the matter is that we all have a role to play. For example, the various governors have been pretending helplessness in the face of security challenges. But are they truly selfless? The answer is no.
It is the responsibility of the Nigerian government to address the spate of insecurity in our nation. It is not only the responsibility of government, I must also say that the citizens must also support government in achieving this. Not just the federal government at the subnational states of the Federation, and also all the local governments and the FCT, and also partners and friends of the Nigerian state must also support. Issue of security is not a single country affair, because sometimes some of these things interstate, that's a country to country. There are people coming from borders of Nigeria, coming to attack. So there must be synergy between Nigeria and neighboring countries, Cameroon, Chad, Niger Republic, Benin. And so what the government must do is that, based on the situation we find ourselves in Nigeria, I think the Buhari government must first rejig the personnel around the security sector.
When we do not invest in harnessing our natural resources, our land and our water, that we will continue to have the issues of banditry and herdsmen killings across the country. So Nigeria must harness its natural resources, particularly its water bodies and its land. It must also secure its land borders and ensure that it begins to deal with the problem of ungoverned spaces, particularly in the northern parts of the country. There's a lot of ungoverned spaces in the north where organized criminal gangs hide, where they move out to perpetuate their crimes, and where they take kidnapped victims to. They must take charge of these ungoverned spaces and invest in building social infrastructure in them that will yield economic benefits to people. So, for example, Katsina has a lot of ungoverned spaces. One of the things you can do is to, for example, build a large solar farm in a lot of that space that will generate power for the whole of northern Nigeria. Then try to think of other ungoverned spaces in northern Nigeria where you could build factory hubs, where you can build ranches, if you will, or whatever you want to, that would help people develop their potentials.
We need to provide employment opportunities for teeming Nigerian population. Recall that Nigeria is estimated to have a youth population of over 60%. That is a youth bulge. So what do we do with our Nigerian youths?
First things to do in investing in young people is to invest in education, and not just education, quality education. Nigeria has the most number of out-of-school children in the world. What you're doing is you're building hubs of people who are not going to be able to fend for themselves. And once they cannot, crime becomes attractive. And once crime becomes attractive, what we have going on then begins to becoming worse.
Securing the lives and properties of citizens and ensuring a nation and society that is safe to live in is the primary responsibility of government. We must collectively chart a way forward for these unending cycles of insecurity in the nation.
Insecurity or security cannot be addressed in isolation of an improved economy. If there is massive unemployment, we'll continue to have issue of insecurity. If there is massive poverty, we'll continue to have a high level of insecurity. So this must work, hand in hand must work together. We must have a buoyant economy.
We are getting better in the structural empowerment of our security outfits, the forces. We are getting better. There is considerable increment in provisions of fighting equipment and things of that nature. I think the other areas we should do more at is, since we understand the fact that the kind of security challenges we are facing is not a conventional one that you can easily locate the place where you can have your immediate rule of engagement and things of that nature. We should embark on sophisticated training of special forces.
Until we look into the issue of corruption, unemployment, and poverty, until we dealt a serious blow and fight with all the energy at the disposal of government, if we are paying lip services to the issue of corruption, unemployment, and poverty, no matter the number and the military hardware we may procure to fight the menace, it may not yield the needed result.
I think that Nigerians need to take their own destiny into their own hands. It's not just the security forces and the executive or the legislative arm of government that is failing. Citizens are also failing to occupy the office of the citizens. We need to take our office holders accountable. In your state, are you taking your state government to account for security in your state, or the other indicators like building strong institutions for the mass atrocities that is going on? Are we calling insistently for accountability for the killings that have occurred in our country? And are we also deciding as citizens that we will not sit back, but rather that we will take our government to account?